Good evening, I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan.
Welcome to Consider This, the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider the news of the day. We begin with the developments in local politics, and there have been quite a few today. So Bersatu celebrated its 3rd anniversary yesterday, and this weekend will witness the formalization of a new political alliance between the two largest Malay parties, UMNO and PAS. Sharaad, what do you make of all these developments?
Well, it seems like a natural step for both UMNO and PAS, seeing how, alliance between opposition parties can be successful. Pakatan Rakyat and then the successor, Pakatan Harapan, showing that was true. And I think we'll see how it goes, but it looks like it's going to have a net effect on the dynamics in the country in terms of politics, in terms of tone of politics and the agenda, the national agenda. So I look forward to a discussion of that.
All right. Well, joining us on the line, we have Ben Suffian, who is the Program Director for the Pollster Merdeka Centre. Now, yesterday, Ben, thank you so much for joining us. I just want to begin with Bersatu, because yesterday at the Bersatu celebration, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad said something quite interesting. He said, Pakatan Harapan was born not out of their own strength, but out of the weakness of their opponents. If we could begin with that, Ben, what do you make of that statement?
I think that's a pretty honest statement, coming out from the Prime Minister, and speaks truthfully about the conditions that pervaded 2018 general elections, in the sense that many people didn't expect Barisan Nasional to fall, because despite the issues that they were grappling with, they did possess enormous resources and leverage over the instruments of government, and yet because certain aspects or certain segments of the electorate were split, Pakatan Harapan was able to wrest power, on the back of split votes, and also the contestation, the three-way contest that we saw in the last general election. So it was in many ways a very lucky lining up of all the stars that enabled Pakatan Harapan to gain power.
But Ben, would it be fair to say that in some sense the Prime Minister is underplaying the immense work that was done over 20 years, laying the foundations for this moment? Yes, perhaps Bersatu in particular helped the Pakatan Harapan get over the last hurdle, right over the top. But without the electoral victories that saw it win the richest states of the Federation, Selangor and Penang, and hold them for 2 terms, that might not have happened.
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, what we saw happen last year and the change in the ruling party, is a culmination of perhaps at least, 2 decades of groundwork laid by pretty much a continuously unified opposition front. Prior to that, the opposition had tried to come together and failed, but I think since the 1999 general elections onwards, we saw that by and large the opposition parties tried to put one candidate in each district against Barisan Nasional, and they tried to do that again in the 2018 elections, but then PAS was not part of the coalition. So in many ways, Pakatan Harapan had already laid the groundwork in order to have a strong opposition in Parliament. However, the reach of Pakatan at that point in time was limited, in the sense that it was in many ways strong in urban areas, maybe very urban areas, but had difficulties in breaking through the Malay heartland. And I think the switch over of Dr. Mahathir from UMNO or Barisan Nasional and then over to Pakatan Harapan helped to tip the balance in their favor in 2018. So in many ways, it was a combination of factors that led to the victory. But now it is the challenge of fulfilling the victory with the promises and also the changes that the public has expected from the new government.
Now, I want to look at Bersatu specifically and kind of take stock at where they are 3 years on. Now, Ben, do you think Bersatu has the necessary machinery within the party and the infrastructure in place to be a sustainable political force?
Well, I think, Bersatu, with all due respect to the hard work that they have put in, is still a relatively new player in the political arena, and it faces a daunting challenge in order to penetrate and establish itself within the Malay heartland. In part, is because it has to, in the last election, for example, he contested against UMNO, and he had contested in places where UMNO was very dominant and very strong. And the last election also, saw the Pakatan Harapan coalition being reliant very heavily on ethnic minority voters for political support. I mean, our own calculations, indicated that on average, Pakatan Harapan, only gained maybe about a quarter of the Malay electorate overall. And so this just shows how difficult it is to penetrate and establish a political force in the Malay heartland. So, Bersatu still has a long way to go in order to challenge UMNO in the Malay areas like in Johor, Pahang, Perak, and certain parts of Kedah, and then in PAS in other parts of the country. So it has a long way to go. And my sense is that looking at the challenges it has in government, in translating its ideals into tangible deliverables to the public, one almost thinks that they need to have some kind of political solution in order to hasten the process of consolidating power and improving its chances in facing the next election.
Ben, I want to ask you about Bersatu's move into the Borneo state. So in Sabah and Sarawak, it launched itself in April in Sabah, and at a recent meet, representatives talked about opening up divisions in Sarawak as well. So how does that play out? Are they going to be competing with their allies, say Warisan in Sabah, and also with their other Pakatan partners in Sarawak? Do they have a game plan, or is it going to actually be disruptive to the coalition?
Well, I mean, the opening of the Bersatu chapters in Sabah and Sarawak certainly poses a challenge in terms of maintaining harmonious relationship with their coalition partners in East Malaysia. I think one really needs to look at each situation with its own merits and its own peculiarities. In part, the political contestation in our country, that alone in Sabah and Sarawak, largely depends on who the individuals are, and one really has to look at the motives of why the party chapters were set up. In these two places, we've seen, especially say in Sabah, for example, many UMNO MPs and state assembly people have already defected either to Warisan or Bersatu, and I think in part it is to be with the winning side, but I think it does pose some challenge in terms of contestation in the future, so that has not come to pass yet. But I think an early indicator would be to see how the coalition partners work out to divide seats in the 2021 Sarawak state elections. Because what we really dig deeper in the details, many of the people that have formed these new party chapters are people who lost out in party contests either in UMNO or in Warisan, belonging to rival factions and seeking to resurrect their political careers by, being the local chapter leader of the ruling national party.
Well, if we could turn our attention, Ben, very quickly to the political alliance between UMNO and PAS that we're going to see formalized this weekend. Now, it's happened once before. I think it was just after the 1969 tragedy. But that pact at that time didn't last long. Now, I'm just wondering, in this current arrangement, this current iteration, do you think this has the promise of being something that's much more effective and much more lasting?
I think if we look at the political culture in Malaysia, coalitions form, break, and then reconfigure itself over time. And in part, it is attuned towards the players' perceptions of their chances in winning the next election. I think if we look at what's going to happen this weekend with respect to this Penyatuan Ummah event, this is, I think, in my personal view, a manifestation of the two principal parties' immediate response to emerging challenges and opportunities. I think first and foremost, if you look at UMNO, UMNO in the current situation is really, really very weak. Its senior leaders are going or currently engaged in lengthy court processes that may see them being put away for a long time. And the party's image, outside of the party rank and file tends to be quite bad. And by doing this, I think the immediate benefit that I think they hope to derive is to consolidate support around the current party leadership, and hope to, gain some breathing space as the party goes through its legal battles. We have the legal battles surrounding leaders, and then we have the legal challenges are certainly going to be encountered by the organization as well, because, as we are aware, UMNO itself is facing civil forfeiture proceedings from MCC, and I think we may see other things come into the public arena in the coming months. So UMNO is not in a safe zone. So I think by doing this, it hopes to recapture the imagination of its supporters, give them a sense of hope, rally support around the current leaders, and put on pressure on the current ruling party on the grounds of the issues that they are most familiar with, that's most easy for them, which is to harp on ethnic politics. And for PAS, I think they have very little to lose, by engaging in this, because if UMNO goes away, PAS hopes to capture some support from people who are leaving UMNO but not willing to support PH. And at the same time, it helps to also preserve their own support base in the northeastern corner and the northern parts also.
Ben, if I could just jump in there, in the last minutes that we have, the message that they're sending out, one is about the Ummah, which is specifically about the faith community, but they also seem to be reaching out to the larger national community. They're saying they don't want to alienate anybody. At the same time, it's a message that's specific to Muslims. MIC and MCA seem to be in the mix, but these are parties with hardly any representation. And so, is there a mixed message situation going on? Are they speaking with forked tongues?
I think, no, there are no mixed messages there. I think it's quite clear, because these guys look at the electoral numbers coming from the last election, and they think that, PAS plus UMNO certainly will have a large majority of the Malay votes, and that they don't really need the ethnic minorities votes in order to wrest power in the next election. So, they're fighting the last battle. They're fighting 2018 in their minds, I think the next election is going to be very different, and the configuration of the political arena probably will change as well. I think they should not underestimate their opponents. They're not going against Pakatan Harapan, they're going against Dr. Mahathir. So long as I think he lives and breathes amongst us, I think he's going to develop a strategy to watch these guys.
Ben, thank you so much for speaking with us now. That's, I guess, a look at local politics. After this, we're going to be turning our attention to the skies, more specifically, the haze. So stay tuned to consider this. We'll be back.